So we're at the halfway point of season 2 of Foundation, and it sort of feels that way as this is a very middling episode, at least if you ask me. As always, I'm Al, this is the Geek in Review, and thanks for taking the time to choose to watch this video. I really appreciate it. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe to the channel, and if you make it all the way to the end of the video, leave a like as well. So, episode 205 picks up with the story of the new Harry Seldon and kind of answers the mystery around his return, sort of. And this episode only focuses on the trio and what's going on with them, and on Trantor as well with the clones, and the ongoing upcoming wedding. Look, this episode is setting a lot up for what's to come, so let's get to it. So we get a flashback to the slow ship from season 1 on its way to Terminus with Harry and Raish. Harry tells him how important his action in killing him will be, and it seems to be that Raish knows the full plan, and this is just before he stabs Harry and before Gaal gets off the ship. It then cuts to new Harry aboard the beggar, so I guess he's remembering his final moments back then. But Raish appears to him and tells him he knows Harry doesn't really care about anyone, he only cares about the plan, and people are just sort of data points in the Seldon plan to him, which he has mentioned already a few times in this season. So I guess this is just battling with his conscience because he sacrificed his son, all for the case of the grand plan. But before disappearing, he says it wasn't the first time that it happened as well. So new Harry is enjoying his old body, even holding the knife that he was imprisoned in for over 100 years. But he still doesn't know how he's back or what caused it. But he remembers everything about his life before he died, and as I said, everything that happened after it as well. Gaal does say that he's been cloned, but they don't confirm it. It's just the sort of most logical explanation that they can come up with. But Salvor has discovered transmissions about the Galactic Faith and the Foundation, and they've got a pretty good idea about what they've been up to over the last 100 or so years. But they are arriving on the planet Ignis, which was their original destination, and they lose control, crashing the ship on the planet. Salvor thinks it was a trap and goes to find out while the other two remain on board. And once on the planet's surface, she finds Hugo, who she assumed was dead as it's been over 100 years. If you remember from season 1, the beggar was his ship, and he says that he's kept in contact with it and used it to track her. Now, the vision from episode 2 and the mule is still getting discussed, but not in much detail. Harry talks about if they can even change the future to save Salvor, and reminds Gaal Salvor is Raish's child as well, so in effect she's Harry's granddaughter. And I never really thought about it that way, that these three are 3 generations of the same family effectively. They see Salvor come back from the forest with Hugo, and Harry tells Gaal to hide the Prime Radiant. Because he thinks this isn't Hugo, and he's right. So these are the mentalics that we've been waiting to see are going to be a key part of the second Foundation's plan. Also, the mule mentioned them in episode 2 as well during the vision. But once they wake up, they're welcomed by the leader of the group who called them to Ignis. She explains that the planet is a refuge for mentalics across the universe, as they're usually cast out of their own society, and I think that's going to be an obvious setup for the mule if you've read the books. But even with all their mental powers that all these people have, they still don't know how Harry Seldon is back. And you think given their gifts they're going to work it out eventually. But Harry hasn't told them about the plan or psychohistory, but again, they're mind readers, so they know that the Prime Radiant is important. After she sort of dismisses the trio, the leader of the group does say that the second Foundation won't be allowed to happen, and I think the reason for that is they know that they're going to get used as cannon fodder and soldiers in some sort of war or conflict at least. And given what these people have been through, she doesn't want to put them through anything else, or anything else that might sort of single them out or separate them from the general populace. But yeah, I didn't really expect that, but it does make sense. It reminded me of the Babylon 5 arc with the telepaths. If you've seen that show, you know that they were only created to fight a war in the future, and that seems to be the way that Harry's using the mentalics as well. Now, as I said at the start of the video, this week only focuses on the 2 stories of the trio and Trantor and the clones, So there's a lot going on here, and we find out how literally the Cleonic dynasty sort of works. We find out that they've got the ability to talk to the original Cleon, but I'm going to get to that in a moment. Queen Sareth still wants answers about her family and what's happened with the attack on Brother Day from episode 1. She only learns that the attack was in Day's bedroom, so she needs to get there to see what happens. Day doesn't really seem suspicious about what Sareth's up to. Like, if he did kill her family, you think he'd come up with a bit of a cover or keep her at arm's length, but he wants her a lot closer. And I think it's going to be a case of careful what you wish for with him. Once she's in the bedchamber, Sareth notices the marks from the attack, and as soon as she's in the room, but she's only there for info, and Day does reveal that he knows about her family history and he works out what she's up to. She says she'll only go ahead with the marriage if she finds out who's behind the attack, because she could be a target going down the line as well. And the fact that Brother Day can't bring the attackers to justice shows again that he's losing his grip and his influence. After Sareth leaves, Demerzel and Day talk about where Sareth's at and that she might have her own agenda. And that's definitely the case, and it is building up to it. In the last episode, it was mentioned that Sareth's aide did have an affair or slept with one of the Cleons about 30 years ago, and we see it in a sort of video flashback or video recording. So this is all sort of about working out what's going on with the memory wipes and the Cleons and what exactly they're hiding. So Sareth works out that they'll never get access to any of the Cleon's memories or edits, but someone would have to treat him after the attack, so they use that angle to try and work out what happened. Now, going back to altering memories, Dusk learns that only Day has the power to do this after the attack, and you can tell Dusk is shocked about this, as things could have happened that he's got no idea about, and that does come up pretty much at the end of the episode. Demerzel assures Dusk that she'll always be there for Empire, but as these guys are getting more separate, I wonder how true that's going to be. I think there's going to have to be some sort of action or decision where Demerzel picks a side, or at very least picks a Cleon. And you can really see the division in the clones coming to the forefront in this episode. Sareth gets the footage of them healing Day from episode 1 and realises that Demerzel's a robot after half her head's missing, because it's kinda hard not to notice. Given that robots have been banned for thousands of years, this is a bit of a shock, and I wonder how this scandal is going to be handled. Is she going to keep it to herself? Is she going to use it to manipulate them? I think that's going to be very interesting. Now, I mentioned that we get a closer look at the dynasty and how it works, and I didn't expect this, and I don't exactly know how I feel about it. Dusk and Dawn go to talk to the original Cleon, yeah, the one that's in the box, and I mean literally talk to him. It seems they can access a sort of memory interface with the guy, a bit like the Vault and Harry, but this guy is just there to provide a baseline for what essentially is going to be every Cleon after him. Once they activate it, the original Cleon says any division against the clones is against his plan, and they should always get on as they're always the same person. Now, they neglect to tell him about the genetic changes to them that's happened over the last century, knowing that he probably wouldn't react well to it and kill them straight away to activate their replacements, which wouldn't make any difference because they're tainted as well. But they don't really get anything that they need from Cleon, so Dusk and Dawn compare the memory files of all the other Cleon clones over the centuries, and they realise that they're missing some information. Dawn is naturally going to have a shorter or lesser file because he's the youngest, but every Dusk should have the sort of same size memory file. I know that different events would happen in their lifetime, such as wars and peace and conflict and negotiations and things like that, but the fact that every Dusk is expected to sort of have round about the same figure proves that the Cleons are stagnating, and that's what's eventually going to cause the fall of their empire. So they know that something has been erased and that none of the other clones have known about it either. And that's kind of where the episode ends. So it wasn't necessarily a great episode, but I don't think it was a bad one. As I said, this is just a small step in the story. The trio storyline of Gaal, Harry and Salvor for me is the weakest of the season so far. The mysteries and the politics on Trantor are way more interesting, and I like to see this sort of game playing. I hoped we got this sort of thing in season 1, and I'm glad we're getting it in season 2. You start picking apart the Cleonic dynasty even before the genetic tampering. These guys are all supposed to be the same guy and all supposed to have the same ideas and vision, so that's what's going to cause their fall. Is, you know, it would be like putting the king from 100 years ago of, say, Britain, or the Queen or whoever it was, in charge of modern day Britain. They wouldn't be able to adapt to what society is or what society is becoming, and I think that's a very interesting notion that I'm sure they're going to explore throughout the rest of the season. But we didn't get Bel Rios this week, so we've still to see what his next step will be. And remember, Polly, Constance and Hobor are all off on their own missions too. And I get why a lot of people aren't happy about this season. I understand the criticism. It feels like they're trying to overcompensate for the pacing issues and lack of action in Season 1, and they've went a little bit too overboard. Bringing a flesh and blood Harry back, introducing the Mool very quickly and moving the pace far too quickly. It seems as if the show is focusing on the characters that are being affected by psychohistory rather than psychohistory in the plan itself. All this is building to the Empire's fall, and we can sort of see the pieces fitting together or falling apart. It's just working out what's going to go where and when. I think the next season will be the fall of the Cleons, and I really hope that they don't rush that. But while I think this episode was a little unfocused, it could have been tighter. I'm still enjoying this season, and I just wonder how they're going to tie all these stories together given all the time jumps and things that are going to happen. As I said, I'm still enjoying this so far. I just think this has been the weakest episode of the season yet. But as always, these are just my thoughts. I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. What's going on with the missing Cleon memories? What's Bel Rios going to do next? And is Harry going to be able to reconvince the mentalics to join the Foundation? Or I should say the Second Foundation. We've only got a few episodes left. And if you've watched the Corridor Crew YouTube channel, you kind of know what's going to happen in the next episode because they did play a clip of it a few weeks ago. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure bringing back a flesh and blood Harry this soon was a great idea. But as I say in almost every video, if you've got Jared Harris, you don't waste Jared Harris, and that's never a bad thing. I'm convinced that this is going to stray further from the Foundation source material, and people are going to get a little bit more upset about it. But you've got to remember as well, they don't have the rights to everything in the Asimov estate and everything even in Foundation, particularly the whole robot aspect, so I wonder about how deep they're going to delve into that. But I want to know what you guys think, so let me know in the comments below, or you can follow me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, at the Geeks Reviews. If you've made it this far, please leave a like on the video, and if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel. As always, my name's Al, thanks for watching.